Folks, it's Fernando doing a quick video here for the Modern Survivalist, and I like to do a video regarding 7 facts about Pope Francis, many of which you probably got wrong. I got a question about this on email, and going online you see some very crazy stuff, especially the comments on YouTube. They're just amazing. So let's quickly go through them. Number 1 is no, Pope Francis is not Satan, and he's not the Antichrist, and no, he's not an alien or a reptile. I've heard all of these 4 and then some online. And you know, it's just amazing. I know maybe it's because of Obama, they somewhat link it to him. Some people think Obama is a reptile or a lizard or something, and Pope Francis gets thrown. I mean, Pope Francis has been around for quite some time. Those of us from Argentina know him quite well from back in the day when he was known as Jorge Bergoglio simply. But yes, no, Pope Francis is not an alien. Number 2, no, he's not pro-gay. Pope Francis is not in favor, and he's specifically not in favor of gay marriage. Actually, Bergoglio, as the article says here back from 2010, Bergoglio se puso al frente de la marcha, which means Bergoglio put himself ahead of the march. This was an anti-gay marriage march. And at the same time, he wasn't opposed to the idea of gay people having somehow of a legal union of some kind, so as to, most of all, regarding their rights. So having a civil union for homosexuals. Now, matrimony falls within the realm of the church. So what he was very much against was the idea of shoving down the Catholic Church's throat a gay matrimony. In the terms of the Catholic Church, matrimony is between a man and a woman. It's having 2 men or 2 women in holy matrimony is as crazy as having a chair married to a bed or a sofa. It really makes no sense, because from the perspective of the Catholic Church, matrimony is a union between a man and a woman to procreate and have a family. So it's simply impossible for anything other than a man and a woman to engage in matrimony. It's so much that way that the inability to consecrate the matrimony, and even the inability to have children, is one of the reasons why you can actually end up having an annulment of the matrimony. All right, it's simply because of that. So yeah, not judging people for being gay, the famous "who am I to judge?" That's very much a Catholic thing as well, overall a Christian thing, not judging people. And keep in mind, this is a guy that goes to prisons to wash prisoners' feet. These are convicts, these are criminals that are already in jail for the crimes that they committed. If he's not judging criminals, he's certainly not going to be judging gay people, even if he may as well think that they are people that have a mental illness of some kind. He may think that homosexuals are, as it was until the early 70s, considered a mental disease, but he's still not going to be judging them for being homosexual. He's still going to be, as he said many times, considering the person rather than whatever the condition is. Number 3, no, Pope Francis is not a communist either, which some people seem to think. Here, in fact, this is from yesterday, talking to Raúl Castro, and in this specific part, let me see if I get it on the audio there.
Años de distanciamiento. Es un proceso. Es un signo de la victoria de la cultura del encuentro, del diálogo, del sistema del acrecentamiento universal por sobre el sistema muerto para siempre de dinastía y de grupos.
All right, yeah, if you don't know Spanish, he's saying that the dynasty of family is dead. The dynasty, the union of peaceful people and such, basically telling him that the dynasty of families is dead. And he's specifically talking here to Raúl Castro regarding him and his brother, the family dynasty that has been ruling Cuba. And he's doing so quite smartly by quoting Jose Marti, which is a Cuban hero by which the airport in which they're standing themselves is named after. So he's clearly, putting a stance of you really should have this encounter between the American society, the Cuban society, and finally end with your family ruling. This is something that we've seen from Bergoglio before. Back in the day, he was the only guy opposing the Kirchner government, not doing so in a confrontational manner or engaging in any conflict, but simply calling it as it was, especially denouncing the poverty across the country. So if he's always going to be on the side of the poor. That's the way it is with him. Doesn't matter if it's the communist Cuba, if it's the socialist quasi-communist dictatorship that you have in Argentina with the Kirchners. He wasn't happy with that either, and he's not going to be happy with anything that is not taking into consideration the poor people or the less advantaged of society. Number 4, no, he's not against capitalism either. This is a big one because lots of people are very concerned regarding this. He's a communist, he's a socialist. I don't think he falls in any specific category. It's very hard to pin him because that's simply the way it is. He's always going to be taking the side of the underdog, of the disadvantage, of those in the least position of power. So it's you cannot just tag him with a capitalist, socialist, communist, because any of those which is not taking into account the position of those suffering, of those in poverty, he's not going to be okay with that. Jorge Bergoglio is pretty much the son of middle-class immigrants. He's pretty much a middle-class person himself. He spent most of his life helping the poor in shanty towns in Buenos Aires and such, but when he talks against the crony capitalism, he's talking about the kind of thing that you find with trickle-down economics, where basically you give so much money to the elite that it falls through the cracks and it reaches the rest of the people. That's something that really hasn't worked ever. I mean, it's proven time and again that since that type of economy has been installed, it had awful results ever since. Everywhere in the world, it simply does not work. So it's not so much that he's against capitalism. He's against a certain type of capitalism which does not take into account the needs of the people, and basically an economy that serves itself, and by that it means that it serves those that run the economy rather than an economy that serves the people that are actually using it. The economy basically should not be something that serves its own interests, because when you understand freedom of economics as freedom to do anything and a lack of regulations just so that the biggest corporations in the world can benefit from that, the small guy is usually left out of it. So not against capitalism. Number 5, he's not pro-divorce and pro-abortion. Those are pretty big topics, but of course Pope Francis is not in favor of abortion. That's completely crazy. He's denounced it 100,000 times always. What he has done is simply extend in confession, when you go through confession, he's simply extended some of the powers that bishops only used to have to the rest of the clergy. And specifically regarding divorce, he's not talking about divorce, he's talking about annulments. It used to be, depending on each country, it's always different, but it used to be that the annulments, this was pretty common in Argentina, by the way, those that got annulments were people that had power, that had a lot of money and contacts. Annulments have always been perfectly legal within the Catholic Church. It has always. The thing is that in some countries it has been pretty much restricted because it was very expensive, time-consuming, and you needed contacts. Now he simply extended that so as to make it a little bit more fair for people that honestly need a matrimony annulment. Annulments, for those of you guys that have no idea what that means, number of things, a huge topic on its own, but beyond the purpose of this video. Example, if the people that got married, one of those didn't actually understand that he was getting married for whatever reason, that's a ground for an annulment. Annulment is basically that the marriage should not have happened ever in the first place. That's why you get an annulment. But if you get an annulment, you can get married again in the Catholic Church, which is something that some people are interested in doing. So an annulment is basically what Pope Francis did, was make it a little bit less for the the guy that is rich, that has the money, and more for the common people. Number 6 is something that you should know about Pope Francis, is that he spent most of his time, especially the last few decades, among the poor. And by poor, I mean the kind of poor that you find in these awful places, in shanty towns in Buenos Aires, the kind of places I talked about many times, the kind of places I very much avoided myself for all the good reasons. Bergoglio simply would go there and help people. You know, it's what he did, and I guess in many ways it's what he's still trying to do, and the message he's still trying to spread. This is him as Archbishop of Buenos Aires, you know, helping out in comedores, in soup kitchens, that sort of thing. That's what he basically did. There's actually one here. This is the subway of Buenos Aires. I think this is the Línea A. I actually took this myself many times. These are very old subways. Those doors there, you need to open them, pull them apart yourself with your hands. It was kind of dangerous many times using those trains, but these, man, I've taken the same type of train myself many times. So yeah, you will usually find him, you know, taking public transportation, subway, train, bus, and hanging around this kind of thing. Of places, and this kind of people that I guess needed his help quite a bit. Finally, point number 7. What is Pope Francis all about? He said it himself. He's not Jesus Christ. He's not Satan. He's not the Antichrist. He's not God. He said he's a sinner. That's basically a position of humility. He's a normal person trying to do as much good as possible. Yes, I think that Bergoglio always tried to be Christ-like, and there's really nothing wrong with that. We all should try to be Christ-like in terms of humility, mercy, and having an open heart regarding the least advantaged, the poor, those that are in a tough position. I think that's a message that the entire world can use, including the United States as well. I'm not that kind of person. I'm not going to be going to wash the feet of inmates myself. I understand maybe why he's doing it. I understand what he's trying to preach. And no, I do not agree with absolutely everything he says. But I think that at the end of the day, he's a very Christ-like person in the good way, in trying to replicate the things that we all should. Folks, that's my take on Pope Francis. Take care, subscribe, share in case you have anyone interested in knowing a little bit about the truth regarding this guy. See you on our next video.